Meeting to order for the SVRTSD special meeting notice for the day. That's the Southwest Vermont Regional Technical School District.
Just let that go.
Okay, the meeting business agenda today is welcome and public comments, and action is the delegation and authority and power of the school board. And then item 3 is the fiscal year 22 vacuum storage agreement. So those are the items that we have down to discuss this morning. Are there anything else that we need to have on the agenda to discuss?
I don't have anything else to add.
Okay, with that, until Madonna come on, then we'll start with, are there anyone that have public comments that they would like to have discussed?
I don't see anyone chiming in or raising their hand, Leon, so I don't see any public comments.
Okay, no. The action item is the delegation of authority or power for the school board. In your packet, whether you got it sent directly to you or that was in the Dropbox, it had the information pertinent to mask wearing at the school. And I'm just going to give a paraphrase of that. It was to authorize the superintendent director to either enforce a mask rule, or we create a policy along that line with, and those were just guidelines that we needed to do. So I think that's the thing that we need to have someone talk about today is the 16 VS 262 and 16 VS 563 for COVID prevention measurements to be taken.
So Leon, I'm happy to talk about that if you would like. Yes,
go ahead.
Okay, so as you recall, for those that were on the board last year and a half ago or so, when we started COVID, there was a state of emergency enacted by the governor, and this board granted authority to myself as a superintendent to run the school as needed during the COVID pandemic, and that included the following the rules, the opening and closing of schools, et cetera, all the daily operations of school, without having to come to the board to ask every single time to make a decision about the operation of school. And so that authority expired with the expiration of the emergency order by the governor. So we were operating under the premise that we still had the authority to do that, and I still believe that we do. However, last Wednesday, the Agency of Education did put out a memo, and so that I don't mess it up, I'm going to read a short paragraph to you. And it says, the school board of the district may either act under its own authority to adopt a written policy concerning masking, or may delegate planning for the district's COVID-19 mitigation measures, including masking, to the superintendent under 16 VSA 242. In either case, a school district board should take action to clearly communicate whether it has delegated the authority to the superintendent or not. The memo is included in your packet. It's about 2 pages long, but that's a summary of it. That I'm asking for you to delegate the authority to me to enforce a mask wearing rule here at school. It is obviously up for discussion, but that's the main topic of why we're here today.
I'd like to make a motion.
Go ahead, Jackie.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we delegate the board's authority for mask wearing to Michael as per this memo, vacated consortium agreement. Is that the one you want, Michael?
No, that's a separate item.
Oh, separate item. I'm sorry.
It's 16 VSA 262 and 16 VSA 563.
Right. So those are the numbers that we need to put in our proposal.
That's
I'll
correct.
second it.
It's been moved and second for the delegation of authority and power to the school, from the school board to the
Don,
superintendent
are you still there?
in the district, 16 VSA and 262 and 16 VSA 563 COVID prevention measurements. When we have a motion and a second, and we're now up for discussion.
I'd just like to comment that the reason I propose this delegation is not to take off responsibility from the board, but to give that responsibility, or excuse me, give that power to Michael Lawler, because he is in the school. He knows what's going on, and this is a so-called semi-emergency type of situation where you can't wait 4 days for a meeting and then make that decision.
Jackie, is there a time frame that we need to do that? Are we saying this is for the throughout the whole year?
I would
This
say-
year, as
I'd like to amend the proposal and say we should do this just first semester and then re-up it a second semester as needed.
If I can add, I think that's a realistic expectation, given the percentage of students that we currently have that are vaccinated, as well as the time that it takes for students to develop immunity. We're looking at the end of probably October, early November anyway. And if the situation changes for the positive, I could always bring a new recommendation to the board, and you could rescind that if appropriate at the time. But I do think that probably the entire first semester is probably realistic.
okay. Any other discussion? At the end, what we'll do once we finish the discussion, we can go back and amend the amendment with a vote and proceed on from that. If there any other discussion concerning the first amendment, if not,
Leon, I
Yes.
see Asher had his hand up.
Well, this
okay.
this is in regard to all of it essentially. I just wanted to make sure, Mike, that you were aware of the CDC and the American Academy of Pediatrics and their recommendations for essentially how to move forward with the pandemic, not just with regard to masking, but with regard to issues like testing and social distancing. I think we need to be aware of these things moving forward, not only to help protect people, specifically students and the people who those students are going home to, also to prevent us from any sort of liability that might come up if we aren't practicing what the CDC and the American Academy of Pediatrics is recommending, because it's my understanding that the AOE's guidelines are not as adequate. So I would just like to bring that forward and make sure that we're all aware that there are different guidelines on how to proceed, and that we should be aware of which ones are going to matter.
Asher, I thank you for bringing that up. And I am familiar with the American Pediatric Association and the CDC's recommendations, and that we have followed fairly successfully, I think, very successfully, the Department of Health and the Agency of Education's recommendations for COVID prevention measures. And but those other documents aside, I am familiar with them, and I want to assure the board and the community that we're not just talking about masking. The rules are not as stringent as they were last year. As far as 6 feet apart in every classroom and things like that. We could not operate school again that way without being in a hybrid mode or some other type of mode. And we have intention of being here 5 days a week in person. Teachers are aware, and we will create space where necessary and where applicable for students. There will still be frequent hand washing. Your administrative team will be at the entrance doors, making sure students are masked and and checking. We're not doing health checks this year because that's not required of us. However, going through last school year, we're very familiar with what to look for. And a lot of the protocols are still in place from last year, such as our isolation room and our contact tracing and assigned seating. And so there are a lot of things that are still in place from last year, just not as, I guess, not as stringent and required as last year. So we are very aware, and I thank you for bringing that up, Asher, and bringing it to our attention.
Sure. One more question. Do we have any protocol for testing going forward for students or teachers?
No, we do not have a policy on testing. The state does offer testing, and there's free testing all over the state, and of course up at SVMC right here locally and at the rescue squad. But there is no requirement for testing, and we're not in a position to require anyone to get tested at this time.
Whose authority would that lie with?
The parents.
Parents.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we've had a good, healthy discussion. So one item coming out of this was just to have a friendly amendment to extend the First Amendment out to the first end of the first semester, as recommended by Jackie and Mike. And so the person that second the motion, would you be willing to accept that addition to the amendment?
Yep.
Okay, that was Fran. So very good. So the amendment then stands that we authorize, we delegate the authority and power to the superintendent and designee per
To implement-
16.
Yeah, to implement the COVID prevention measures as listed under 16 VSA 262 and 16 VSA 583.
Well, thank you, Jackie.
Welcome.
All in favor of that? Just raise your hands or do a dot or some on the computer.
Aye.
Okay.
It's unanimous, Leon.
It's okay. No one abstaining or opposed. Okay, so the ayes have it. Thank you. That was item number one that we're taking care of. The second next item on is the physical year 22 vacant custodians agreement. Did I get that right?
Consortium.
Yes.
Yes, it's our VACTID, which is another acronym. We love our acronyms in education. So for the community that's watching, VACTID is the Vermont Association of Career and Technical Education Directors. So it's our directors association that we have in the state. And Becky, if you could speak to the consortium agreement, what that is. This is nothing new. This is every year, just as an update about a reminder for folks about what it is.
So this we agree on, or we've been doing for a number of years. It's actually funded through our Perkins grant that we acquire every year, but we need the school board to agree that a portion of our Perkins funding will go toward this consortium, which helps train new teachers. It was included in the Dropbox and I think in your packet so that you could read it over as far as the purpose is. It's helping with the professional development towards the new teachers that are on board, professional training. You can look through all the bullet items, but basically all the tech centers in the state of Vermont participate in this consortium. And again, it's not coming out of our local budget. It's coming out of our Perkins budget that we earmark some of the funding toward this to help support that professional development for the new teachers. Are there any questions about it?
I just had a quick, maybe it's a typo. Bullet number 2 mentions it's an Improvement Act of 2020, and then the top it says 2018. I just want to make sure.
So that's
The-
Mike Cutler. So go ahead.
Yes. Sorry. It was just the years where I saw 18 and 20 in there. I just wanted to make sure that that was correct. If it is, fine. I just saw it.
Okay, where are you?
Bullet number 2, at the end, it just says requirements of the Improvement Act of 2020.
Mhm.
But in bold at top, it says of 2018. Perhaps it's, and at the end, it says 2018 as well, the last bullet.
Yeah.
It could be,
Right, this document comes right from the state, so we didn't type the document,
that's
but
fine. Just checking, make sure it wasn't anything, a miss year, that's all.
Yeah, I
Right.
think and I could be mistaken, Mike, but Becky's right. This does come from the state, and they give us the number to plug into the Perkins plan of the cost, and so that year 18, I'm making an assumption here that maybe as the state plan, because the state has to submit a plan for Perkins before we actually are allocated any money, so it may be that. So I know every tech center got the same exact document for board approval. If there are any errors in it, I'm sure it will be caught and be brought back again. Thank you for asking. Absolutely.
The ears look different, that's all.
I think it was the year it was written. probably.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah, that's just being updated, so I just want to make sure. Cool, thanks.
No, thank you for asking.
Okay, any other questions?
So you want a motion?
Yes, if not, I'd like to have a motion that we adopt the fiscal year 22 vacancy consortium agreement as
I'll make-
written and provided by the state.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and second. So Jackie and Mike, any more comments? If not, all in favor by signaling, raise your hand, a voice, or a computer, one or the other.
Aye.
Aye.
Looks unanimous.
Any-
Yeah.
Okay, there's no no one abstaining, and there's no no's.
Not that I see.
So it passes 100%. And that's all that's on the agenda item that we had to discuss along that line. So based on what was read at the beginning of the meeting. At this time, and we didn't have any other thing to say others down here, so we'll just have a motion to conclude the meeting for today.
Motion to adjourn.
It's
Second.
been
Third.
moved and second. All in favor? Ayes.
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone abstaining, objecting? Nope. So until I see you again. Thank you.
Okay.